of our regular newsletter? Well, we're happy to meet you. We've been coming to South by for the last 4 years, but we've been in existence for 20, pretty much since the beginning of digital advertising and media in the mid-1990s. We started covering that field as traditional media agencies and marketing company and marketers started moving into digital. We've been covering it in our journalism. We do over 60 newsletters, daily, weekly, and monthly, as well as 30 shows like these here and in Europe every year. Our focus has always been the intersection of marketing and emerging tech and the ways in which digital is transforming how media work and how all marketers work. And for the last 4 years, we've been bringing those topics to South by, and especially looking at the ways in which major brands are trying to take advantage and explore some of the bleeding edge technologies, and that's what we're going to do today, especially talking about Internet of Things. Obviously, as we start moving into a sensor-based world, as interactions start becoming much more intimate, as virtually every object becomes something that is itself clickable, but also involved in a give and take of data and information, the opportunity for brands to get closer to everyday life becomes all the more important, all the more possible, but also the ways in which virtually every moment, every experience, including retail, including all of the experiences that brands create for us in hotels, as we'll see on cruise lines, really become fully enriched. But it raises a whole host of problems. And one of the good things about our speakers from both Thomas Fanger, who's from MGM Resorts, and Jan Swartz, who's the president of Princess Cruise Lines, is they've been spending time thinking about some of the implications here, not only for internal efficiencies, but the ways in which they relate to consumers. So we're going to kick off our discussion here with our moderator, Laura Davis Taylor, who is the EVP of Customer Experiences at the agency Max Media. In fact, she advises a number of brands on exactly these matters. She's worked with companies like Toyota, Best Buy, Coca-Cola. Please welcome Laura Davis and our panel.
I always have to lower these things. Hi. Tom and Jam, I think we can go ahead and come on in. We are unfortunately missing Nathan today. Nathan had an ill child, so we unfortunately won't have Coca-Cola, but we have a good juicy topic today. And as Tom and Jan come in, just want to preface this a little bit. I work for a retail innovation firm, Max Media. My job is customer experience. I also have a minor in hospitality. And what's really cool about this topic and hospitality leaders running it is at the heart of hospitality is experience. And as a person who's been in retail for over 2 decades, that's what we're moving towards. We're really trying to understand what's happening based on technology and the fact that retail in some cases has become a problem with parity. You can buy a box of Cheerios anywhere. It's really based on whether you want to buy a box of Cheerios at one store versus the other, right? And with hospitality, it's always about how do we do something that's unique? How do we do something that's memorable? How do we serve rather than market to people? So I'm going to ask that each of these guys introduce themselves, and Jan's got a short video here. We're going to get into some really good questions, and we hope that you're thinking about something to ask in a minute. So Jan, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So my name is Jan Swartz. I serve as the president of Princess Cruises and the head of Carnival Australia. So our parent company is Carnival Corporation, which owns about 50% of the cruise market globally. So Princess will carry over 2 million guests a year from over 100 countries around the world to places of amazing beauty like Alaska, Europe, Asia, Caribbean, and the like. And I've been in the business for approaching now 20 years.
So, Tom Fanger, Vice President Multimedia for MGM Resorts International. How many of you have been to Vegas? All right, quite a few of you. So I'm pretty sure you've stayed at one of our fine properties. We have just 10 on the Las Vegas Strip alone with over 44,000 hotel rooms. So, like I said, I'm pretty sure you've been to one of our hotels and hopefully had a great time there. Because I know a lot of you guys think MGM Resorts is a gaming company, but we're more than a gaming company. We're an entertainment company, and with entertainment, gaming is one of them, right? There's retail, There's food and beverage. I mean, we have over 220 food and beverage outlets on the Las Vegas Strip. So we're pretty. We have a pretty good footprint there in Vegas. My role for MGM Resorts is obviously oversee multimedia, which is the biggest footprint we do. Is I control over 55,000 digital screens in Vegas, anywhere from a big marquee to the guest room TV, all the way down to a little table game sign that shows your denomination for what you can bet on blackjack. So that's me in a nutshell.
So I know Jan's got a short video as we get that ready to go. Just wanted to kind of speak to something that I thought about when we were having our, as we were having our prep, and that is the notion of the brand experience. And I worked for a person who was a Disney Imagineer. She used to always say in the theme park design, they're all about the suspension of disbelief. And I thought about this, Jan, as you were talking about what you guys are doing, and Tom, as you were talking about what you're doing. How do you create a brand ecosystem where every single thing your guest does, they just can't fall out of the brand bubble you're trying to create for them, right?
Yep.
And that's one of the things we're trying so hard to do at retail too, is from the second that person walks in the door of our stores, that is a gift to us as retailers. And how do we find some inspiration from what you guys are about to share here? So if we want to go ahead and cue this up.
Can they see? Yeah, I'll get out of the way.
So we want to get back to the purpose of why people take cruise experiences, which is really to connect with other people, other cultures, other destinations around the world. Because what we want to do is create a new level of service that is enabled by technology, but not technology-centric.
There's 3 simple ingredients: the ocean medallion, the ocean compass, and people. And the magic we're going to create is the intersection of all those 3 things.
On the digital side, we have the compass, and on the physical side, we have the medallion. In a sense, it's like a modern day currency. It's technically the most advanced currency you can imagine. Each medallion is personally assigned to each guest, so their profile is connected to the medallion. Just by walking up to your stateroom and opening the door and walking inside, you don't need to bring out your phone, you don't need to tap in a code.
When we started designing the compass, we wanted to make sure we designed it in a way that anyone could understand. And what everyone in the world understands is time. So the navigation on the compass is just simply left to right as it relates to a timeline. Being able to look forward and engage and allows you to maximize your experience because you know everything that's available for you. And then navigating up or down just allows you to navigate up into possibilities. It's that persistent connection that allows this personalization to the next level.
So what the ocean medallion, and particularly the compass, does for the crew is provide real-time information about the guest that they are serving so that they can better address them, welcome, speak to the activities and venues on the ship that might be most interesting to them, can store their preferences, can resolve any issue that might arise. All this is right there at their fingertips. The energy here at CES is unbelievable. I understand there's a huge buzz. The spot to see at CES. So we couldn't be more excited to unto the world all the work our team is doing in creating the next wave of vacation travel.
We just started these here at CES with a number of hotel executives and companies from around the world, and it's fantastic. I think what Medallion is doing for travel and hospitality is on the cutting edge of innovation for the industry. So very exciting to see what Carnival's doing.
To see cruise, honestly, finally taking ahead of technology. They've for years been catching up in technology, and this is actually getting ahead. We're strong believers at Expedia about let our guests book the way they want. They can click, call, or come in. This lets them vacation the way they want.
I know, Tom, don't have a video to share, but you're going to do a little overview of what you guys are up to.
So I kind of started it during my intro with what MGM Resorts is, and what we're trying to do as far as the guest experience goes is to elude what we were talking about earlier. was we are guest personas, right? So when you come to Vegas, everybody comes to Vegas for something different. You're either there to gamble, you're there to go to the spa, you're there to shop, you're there to get dinner, see a show, get a drink, right? We've got plenty of guests that never touch the gaming floor, but will go to eat dinner, have cocktails, and go see whatever the latest show is at one of our properties. So that being said, with the different guest personas, is we want to theme the experience to what they're there for. So from their mobile experience on the website to the television experience in the guest room, that can easily be themed for what they're there for. When I say themed, I mean served up the right targeted advertising for while you're there. If you're there for a spa weekend, and we know you're there for a spa week, we're gonna try to show you some things about the spa and also other activities that are really to the spa you may or may not know about. I mean, a lot of people come to Vegas because the place so really don't know what to do. So we help them along journeys that help us a lot to get through their journey so that they have the experience. We were talking about earlier, we're more than just in the entertainment business, we're in the holy shit business. So, so we want you to leave Vegas saying holy shit we've had there.
I love that headline. I had to tweet that actually.
Yeah.
Because it really is very research around this isn't, and make sure that when people physically like it feels like is it friends? Is something's not it's an ad. When something's meaningful to you, you say thank you unconsciously, and that kind of bridges into shoppertainment. And if it's something that feels like it's curated for me, if it's entertaining, if it's dialing my happy dopamine in my brain, then all of a sudden I'm kind of caught up in that brand bubble we started talking about, right? So with that in mind, can you guys kind of talk about your overarching philosophy of IoT and how did you get your executives to buy into it? Because that's one of the challenges a lot of us are having because it's so scary to them.
So I can speak. So it started with the idea that there's probably nothing more precious than vacation time, right? And how do we support our guests making the most out of every precious minute with the people that they love? Mm-hmm. And our CEO, Arnold Donald, set about a quest to say, let's scour the world for some of the biggest and best inventors and guest experience designers to radically rethink how we can present the cruise experience. And so we built a team led by John Padgett, we married them with our dream team at Princess and have spent the last few years reading the entire ecosystem. So to explain a little bit at a practical level what this means. So this is a medallion. It's some of the most advanced technology in the world. It's the weight of, say, a quarter. And one of these will be shipped to every guest on a Princess cruise. So you'll get this before you embark on the ship. You will, through a digital application, whether it's your phone or tablet or desktop, will prepare for your voyage in a very fun way, telling us your preferences, what are you most interested in. Because on board our ships, every day we have literally hundreds of activities, whether those are Pilates classes, cooking demonstrations, poker games, fun things by the pool, restaurants, happy hours, you name it. And so in advance, you'll specify what are my expressed interests. Then with your medallion in your pocket, or there'll be accessories, you can carry it in other ways, a clip, necklace, an armband. You will arrive at the ship and immediately within seconds be swiftly embarked. On ships, it's a closed ecosystem. There are thousands of sensors. And so should you, as a guest, opt in to the full immersive experience, those sensors will take your express preferences and your implicit preferences by where you spend your time on the ship, how long you spend there, what interactions you're choosing to do, and it real-time updates your profile such that through algorithms, we get to know you better and better and better. And so this connection between the physical place, which is the ship. Crew members who have their own company aware of every possible activity that lines up with what your interests are. So I love wine, I love great steaks, I have 2 daughters, whatever else. And so my invitations of what I'm invited to participate in on board the ship are totally different than the person that may be in the cabin next to me. And so that real-time algorithm will benefit the guest and also help them take maximum use of their time, should they decide to opt in to the fully immersive experience.
It's almost auto-magical. It's like Oz behind the curtain, isn't it? Like having your own little digital concierge.
It's what we're trying to get to,
Yeah.
right? Everybody wants to be a VIP in Vegas, so that's one. It's probably the best way to do it. I'll speak a little bit on the whole getting senior management engaged with what we're trying to do with IoT, because at the end of the day, everybody will get asked the question of ROI. What's our ROI on this, right? Because we can dream up a good guest experience. And that's great and all. We just have to make sure there is a return on that investment. And that return may not be monetary. It could just be, getting something that differentiates us from our competitors, right? That we're doing something cool in the room where it's got voice control with like an Alexa or a Google Home or something like that. So what we do is we'll find an operator at one of the hotels. I'll use Delano as an example, and do an experiment on whatever that idea is, see if we can prove it out, get enough data back on it to where we can present to management and go, hey, this is what we've sought out to do, this is what we've accomplished, and, can we get the actual funding to move forward? Because between the ROI and guest experience are the 2 top things that we're really, really focused in on that. And then with that, if we can prove of how to roll it out in scale. And with 44,000 rooms on the Strip, it could be quite cumbersome. So going from there, that's how we usually that's how we work with management to get the funding to do what we need to do with the IoT stuff. Is we'll do a small test. We believe in falling forward, and go from there, and then hopefully they buy off on it, and I can get rocking and rolling on getting it throughout the rest of the Strip.
I think for us, I would say the fundamental principle is a belief that if you reduce or eliminate friction in a consumer's life, that it will increase. You think about life, Amazon Prime has made shopping infinitely easier, and therefore I'm happy for them to have my data because they help inform my purchase process, makes it much easier. I read a lot more books than to before because you've eliminated the friction of having the book. There's 1,000 examples of that. So in our case, the business case from a commercial perspective was, if we take like one piece of the applications that we're building, is something called here and now, or there and then. So what it will allow someone to do on our ships is, I'm laying on my lounger by the pool, I want an iced coffee with soy milk, I just click here and now, and it's ordered, and our crew member finds me and delivers it instantaneously. Right? And so the commercial belief is, okay, if you have here and now capability and people can have whatever wish they have fulfilled, will consumption increase? A lot of people are on the sun lounger saying, yeah, I'd love another, beer, but I really don't want to get up and walk over to that bar. And I think if they can click a button, more beers will be ordered. And so I think in any of these investment cases, often you have to have a kind of underlying belief and be willing to take the leap of faith that you're adding real value to the guest experience.
The pain point, or here's the opportunity, here's the theory for what we can solve, here's the estimate for what we think that can result in financially, and here you go, executives.
Yeah.
It's really important. We talk about this a lot at Max Media, about the notion of we fund well what we measure well. And of course, with hospitality, it's about guest revenue and additional revenue per guest. And getting back to suspension of disbelief, to them, that's just a gift. Oh, thank you for making this easier. Thank you. And just personally, I think this is really important for us to take back, because there's so many potential technologies we could be using in this arena, but which ones should be the ones we're focusing on, and why? The biggest mistake we make is we always go after these sexy things because they're sexy, but they're not really resolving something that we can prove with research and we can stand in front of and irrefutably argue with our executives to defend to do.
We're always cautious about, we want to be cutting edge, not bleeding edge.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because
That's good.
that will, as you guys know, with technology, what's hot today is going to be gone tomorrow, something else will be new. And another big piece about technology is user adoption. I could put something in the room that I think's awesome. We might have a good case to put it there, but if the user doesn't know what the heck it is and doesn't use it, well, that was a big waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
So we do want to be cutting edge, but not the bleeding edge. And we also have to control, at least ourselves sometimes, of chasing the new shiny object in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just as you said, you got to just figure out how it fits in with the customer and versus their friction, because that's another. I agree with you with that. Is the less friction you have, that the customer has, the more opportunity they will they'll spend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say the thing that we spend more time thinking about is how do you make the technology completely invisible, right? Success is nobody notices the technology. So how do you enable your crew to serve your guest better, to help them celebrate their anniversary, should they have indicated that it's acknowledging it, without our crew member staring at a mobile device, right, and interrupting the authentic human service experience. And so I think in the progression of the Internet of Things, particularly in the true physical, the intersection between the physical, digital, and human realm, it's how you get those things to intersect where the technology doesn't intrude on the authenticity of the human experience.
That's really important. And so back to that, one of the things that is sometimes challenging with these is when people have to learn something new, it can be challenging. And a lot of times you'll find to revert to typical research methods to do that. Let's go do a focus group and ask them how they feel about that. Well, how is someone going to give you an accurate measure when you're talking about something they've never experienced before? So how do you, as people, clearly you're innovative leads at your firms, with your companies, how do you test for these types of things to make sure they're going to work? Are you using Agile? Are you doing that kind of fringe research? Talk to us about that.
So we do, the nice thing is about doing it in an isolated group of rooms or whatever, we'll either invite particular guests to stay there, someone that's kind of familiar with technology, doesn't mind messing around with it and won't complain if it breaks.
Yeah.
So just a word of caution too, when you put in something new, I'll just say an IoT device, get ready because you'll get a whole nother list of issues that you've never had before, right? So just a heads up on that. We run into that all the time. Anyways, so the way we do, so we'll have either invite a guest to stay there to give us honest feedback. Hey, we stuck all this stuff in the room, right? We have a couple test rooms that we want to build out called the Room of Tomorrow and have people knowingly stay in there and go, hey, I put this checklist of stuff in there. What did you use? What didn't you use? What were your pain points for it? And then we can then look at that and then try to figure out where to steer us.
That's really fun.
That's how we do it. Yeah, because the last thing I want to do is stick something in there for a test and the guest doesn't know about it. And then next, like I said, I'll get a brand new complaint that we've never had before. And then that obviously adds friction, which is not good either. And hit up the guest. We try to do it in a controlled environment.
With real people.
Yeah, with real people. Yeah, no, for sure. We're real people, and with real people that have experience with technology, and just the average person that barely knows how to use their phone. We want to see what they do. If you don't know, like streaming to the television, right? I can stick a Chromecast in the back of the TV. You guys can stream your content all day long. The thing is, will you do it? I'm sure most will, but and then how easy is it for the guest to do it? Because when you got a bunch of rooms close together, you're going to see Chromecast 1, Chromecast 2, Chromecast 3, and you might end up broadcasting in someone else's room. So there's a whole bunch of pitfalls and hurdles that we've got to look into and make sure it doesn't affect that.
You, Jan?
So I would say it's a combination of things. We have an innovation center where we do full-scale mock-ups of pieces of the ship that we're working on. So part of the medallion will have effortless room opening, so no key required. You just approach the door and your door opens like a luxury car. So in that case, we've built whole cabins and test the technology. And I think to the extent that you're designing to be completely simple, effortless, and frictionless, that kind of design is by necessity very intuitive. And but obviously we run guests through there, and there's no problems, right? So I think it depends. Your question depends on what's the nature of what piece of the experience that you're building.
And making things simple is the hardest thing to do, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's so
The easier
true.
it is for the guest, the more difficult it is for us to figure out,
Yeah.
right? So.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It takes 2 decades usually in your career to learn that, but it's so true. So what are the watch-outs that you guys have? Surprises, watch-outs, funny stories that you could share?
Obviously, watch out for if you put in something new, you'll get a whole new list of complaints about something may or may not work, or it might work, but it didn't work the way it was expected. How do I want to explain this? I'll use Alexa as an example. So we're toying with the idea of putting an Alexa-type device in the room to where you can speak and go, order me towels, when's the pool closed, that kind of stuff. Issue there is, and it'll get better, is you got to say something specific in order for it to reply back the answer you want. So I can't say, I have to, you can think of all the phrases, but if you don't have the right phrase in there that you particularly say about when the pool's open, it'll just come back and say, I don't know how it worked, or I don't know what you said. And the technology worked, it's just the end user didn't say it the way we were expecting them to. I'm trying to figure out an easy way to do this, because it's complicated. It's pretty complicated. Just getting it in there and then going from there. It's a lot.
I think one of the unique complexities of our business is that our ships are sailing 365 days a year, right? They're out at sea. And so what was super fun about the project was working with a team of world-class technologists and saying, okay, we want to reinvent the ecosystem on board our ships and completely change the game in the leisure business and eliminate all these friction points from our guest experience. And oh, by the way, the ships are only dry docked once every 3 years for 12 days. So you not only have to invent technology that works in places of high humidity, lots of sunshine, salt air, but when the ship comes out of the water and we have to replace a bunch of stuff, you've only got 12 days to do it. And so I think we finished our first ship in dry dock last fall, and it could have been a reality TV show on just almost the military type planning that it took to figure out what are the thousands of activities that needed to happen and how do you choreograph that dance during 12 days to do the complete install at the same time that obviously we're doing a lot of more traditional work and upgrades to the living areas on our ships. So anyway, so I think there's many stories to be told about the creative thinking that goes into not only designing the new guest experience or conceiving of new technologies and having them all intersect, but also just the planning prowess as well as the human training and that's all required to make this kind of
the management of these devices, especially if you've got a lot of them, and obviously maybe not the resources that you'd like to manage them. So you a lot of remote management, and then it more proactive to report something's going wrong before someone else notices it. So especially like I said, with these little IoT devices, they're small, you can stick them somewhere, but they're pretty simple too. So they may not have the enterprise features you're looking for to control them from a central location or something like that. So the labor to go fix it, replace it, it can get time consuming, and it can be expensive.
Operational realities.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hate
yeah,
those.
exactly. You got to think about. I can get it to work in a small test, but then how do I scale it to 44,000 rooms?
Yeah.
So that's a gotcha there too. Is it works in a dozen rooms, but then you come find out it doesn't work in 2,000, just because the operational wise. So.
Yeah, and you think about how mission is, and by nature we always want things to be clean. And there's so much about that as we move into this world with retail, so of course there's no roadmap, of course it's going to be messy, of course you have a lot of areas that you prove out. And that leads to one of the things we talk about a lot, which is not as sexy, but the data side of it. And it's been decades, how many years that we've not had data on what people are doing physically in physical spaces. And it's a whole new layer to big data, but that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where stuff happens or doesn't happen. And that kind of blows some people's minds to think about how do we start to put the data tools in place so we can say from first place above the line to capture this person's attention all the way down to the 5th year of them being a true customer, being a loyal customer, this is what's happening, and this is what we need to know about it. And even this is now how we put things in place to start anticipating their needs versus just marketing to their potential needs. So let's talk about the whole data side of it and what that's been like for you guys, and how you start to get those data people involved in stories. It's so new.
Yeah, it's really new. We have a ton of data on not just what we don't quite know what to do with it all, right? I mean, you got a lot of data. It's trying to find that actual data. And that becomes there's a lot of it. We are slowly but surely figuring it out, but I mean, it's, things change all the time. So there's a lot of data. You got to just figure out of all the data, what's actually you, and you decide from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, people have been talking about big data for so many years. I coming from the perspective of saying, hey, we've got all this information, what do we do with it, is the wrong end, right? In terms of where I'm at it from. The place to come at it from is commercially, what do we want to learn, right? And so one of the examples of this new ocean ecosystem that will be very helpful is we'll have data on ship, the conversion of people walk into this venue and why of them purchase something. And all of that will be very useful for future new build design. If certain bases aren't working, then we can dig into, well, is that because the furniture we have in that room is not ergonomic, or the art that's there is not? And so I think you've got to start with what commercial or guest-centric questions are you trying to ask yourself or challenge your team to address, and then say, how do we make sure we gather the data to get ourselves an answer, some insight on that question.
Let's feedback. What about creative things? How do you manage the systems that serve up personally relevant messages and pieces of the creative, and how do you make sure that the brand standards, the kind of brand magic of your creative is going to be controlled? Because I would imagine you've got to do some responsive type things that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So within MGM Resorts, we have many brands, right? One of them brand, so each of the brands obviously have their own brand staples, creative logos, colors, all that good stuff. So what we do is, I'll use the television as an example, is the wireframe's there, but they can theme it however they want. So that way I can still have the controlled experience of what the television's going to do, however it fits the brand standards for that said hotel. So that's how we do it. We try to, I hate using the word template, but we try to wireframe it out, get it standard, make sure all the levels of business that are involved buy off on it, and then you guys put your creative look and feel on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in this type of project, there's just an enormous amount of content. And so you have to make sure you have sufficiently dedicated resources to be absolutely comprehensive in that content, to have standards, to make sure that it's as visually effective and simple as possible, because you're, again, trying to reduce the noise and the friction in your guest's experience. So content management and strategy is a huge piece of the overall deliverable of the experience.
So just pivoting a little bit, one of the things that we talked about with Steve, and we were getting into this topic back to shoppertainment, and kind of threading it all together with data, with experiences and personalization, just to kind of just follow a trail of thought here. One of the things that we did at Maxmedia a couple years ago is we were trying to figure out, what do people feel from a privacy perspective about this level of tracking? And it was really interesting, because what we found is it was more about, I don't want to use this, and this is my personal device, and I don't know where my data thumbprint's going to go once I'm off that ship or out of that store or out of that casino. But I'd use something else, which is interesting about what you all are doing. But the other thing was, it wasn't that they didn't trust the retailer. What they didn't trust was Big Brother, and what the retailer didn't know about where that data would go later. It was very, very interesting. And the younger people didn't seem to mind. But the one thing was, but if I love the experience, I'm not even thinking about it. And that's value exchange, isn't it?
Yeah.
We talk about I don't realize how much this right now is tracking on me. It's so much about their perception. So let's talk about how you guys get around any potential privacy issues and how you're thinking about it, because that's certainly a hot one. We have such a hard time doing anything because of legal.
Right. So from our perspective, our focus is, it's the guest's choice, right? So should the guest choose that they want their privacy settings such that they don't want to opt into any of the location-based services and they only want it for safety purposes, that's great, that's fine. They can have the amazing cruise experience they've always had. But should they want to opt in to location-based services and be at a glance, be able to see, okay, there's 7-year-olds in the International Cafe like eating a donut and they're on the top deck, looking at the stars or whatever, then that and so opting into location-based service makes sense for them. So I think it's about how will evolve is that voice more extra of your hotel card room key than certainly there would be in our medallion. So it's also, I think, about if you deliver the value and the experience is dramatically enhanced, then people are willing to lean into it.
Yeah, I agree. Get the guests to opt in, and then once you get them to opt in, because I'll give you all my information if you're going to make my life easy. I mean, it's simple, it's easy. I don't have to think about it. I can just do what I want to do at that moment. Can be pretty spontaneous from time to time. But get them to opt in, and then also explain to the guest, if you do opt in, here's the experience you're going to get with it, right? So try to educate them, or at least make them a lot more comfortable of what you're doing with that information and who sees it and who owns that information. You can put that all in the privacy statement or wherever. But because I know that's always a big concern of us, especially when we have partners that help us gather this data. We always, first question we ask is, who owns the data? Is it us or is it our partner? And we always fight for and do business with ones where the company that our partner says your data can't. So we sure know data being gathered, but you're right, it's what we don't know is it can be the scary part. But we do our due diligence on to make sure whatever data is collected on our customers is that we own it, and no one else can get it from there.
On that same note, I remember when Target did a 50-store beacon test, we all just went on about how cool it was that they just put the legal concerns right out there. When you signed up for it, they said, hey, we're only going to hit you up twice. We're not going to do anything with your data. Get going. And it was in human speak there. You didn't have to go through pages of mobile phone TNCs to see it. And there's some learning in that, too. Just put it right out there and put it in human speak and let them know what they're taking on.
Yeah, we're going to follow you, and we're going to serve you relevant information as you move around. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to get this out of it.
Yeah, and this is the experience out.
Yeah.
Here's the benefit if you let me do this.
Yeah.
So.
And some of them even seen just do little gifts, little thank yous here and there, just to confirm, yep, you're in the right choice, you know?
I mean, I've already been followed anyways, especially with the casinos with all the cameras, and that's for your safety.
Yeah.
So, so it's already going on. It's just a matter of, like you said, being up there honest up front of what you're doing with it.
So we've got 20 minutes here for questions. I'm sure there's lots of burning ones around this. Who wants to get started?
Hi, everyone. Ross here with me. If you have a question, stand behind one of my. You can slide if you have a question. By the way, Joe Mandisi has a question. No? All right, go ahead. So I have a question about the medallion technology, Jan. Is it something that was created in-house, or was it a third party created it?
Yeah, so we did create, well, I should say there's over 70 different firms involved in this project led by an in-house team at Carnival Corporation. So because of the extensive collaboration required between so many different technologies, it's a mix of external providers and internal providers.
Okay. 70 different?
70.
Wow, okay. That's many. Go ahead, Joe. No? Oh, this gentleman first. Please tell you on where you work, if you would. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Chris. Global. We also work in hospitality. The question from an agency to hear if you've got any thoughts on this challenge of linking the on-site, on the ship, for example, or in the hotel's behavior. And I absolutely accept the argument that removing the barriers will drive demand. But linking it back to the behavior pre the decision to purchase that, so you can use it to market in getting people on board.
Yeah, I think that's part of the ultimate power of it will be connecting with all the pre-cruise marketing through DMP. When you think about the level of personalization on the sales and marketing side, right, married up with, and all that can be done today. A really powerful combination. And so the power of our algorithms will be that it's not just about enhancing your current cruise, you know, which is going to make it wildly better, but the next time that you book with us, we'll learn more about you. And the next time, such that I think the future of loyalty programs are going to be points-based, or it's going to be, the currency is an enhanced experience. So why would I choose, if the next time I arrive on the ship, nobody ever serves me coffee without it being soy milk, right? And they don't ever have to ask me that because they know that about me.
I always take that until you get out. Right.
I say friends from school. I'm going to probably different activities and enjoy different things when I'm dealing with my husband and my children. Right? And so I think that idea of learn, use that information, how you speak to me again. Over more times, that's where the power lies.
Do me a favor and teach this to the retail people also.
As long as you go there. Do you name it something?
Joe, go ahead.
So Jan, that is one of the best expression of I've seen kind of technology. So you looked at but also enable applications, and because I'm getting one of those a week before my cruise, I didn't really lose. So I also need to play today, and you could know. You could come along to you.
So the very interesting vision, where we're starting, that is pulls huge pictures and understanding, what are preferences versus allergies versus the like, and now it takes, I guess, a while to get there. As you back to ingredient data night on every restaurant and bar, right? But I think the power of being able to do that world-class level will be extraordinary. Now we have hospital nurses because it's believed some do on occasion, have an illness on vacation, and so we have begun to think through, okay, how could we radically improve the guest experience on board when they're having medical services. Some of that is really supporting pre-cruise much of what are you needs in terms of supply. So the possible applications of the ecosystem of technology are truly so exciting, because a cruise ship is small things. And so thinking about how do we want to reinvent the healthcare experience? How do we want to reinvent the casino experience? How do we want to reinvent the food and beverage experience? To put the guests at the center of everything we do and all the shit around it.
Gentlemen in the shirt, go ahead.
Both spoke about we're to are you going to rely on one kind of out-of-the-box solution, or it's probably going to be a number of partnerships that you're using. So I was wondering if you could either be specific about some of the platforms you're using. It's a combination of custom solution that you have, but how do you aggregate all that data at it, make it from
out of the box. It's like testing of what we do for the variants. Finding a vendor that can help us execute on with our business implemented now there with IT, other data. So there are the right that put that all together. We have we'll say television, watching, all that good kind of stuff. Give it to an analyst, and then let them go from there and ask the questions that we're trying to figure out, and then let them crunch the data to see what we need to execute on or what's actionable. So it's as far as partners go, I get everybody banging on my door for just so. We're, when it comes to, we'll bring up AI, right? So we're talking to everybody for AI. You got IBM, we're talking to them. We're talking to Amazon with Alexa. We're talking to Apple with Siri. We're talking into Google with their Google Home stuff. So it's a combination of everybody. The way we usually pick a vendor, we'll use the AI portion of it, is who's flexible and is willing to give us that solution you have there, but tweak it for our particular needs. So I know IBM is nice because with a Watson I can stick that into any device instead of worrying about, last thing I need is one more piece of technology in the room to break. So I'll use Alexa as an example. If I can put that in an alarm clock, it's already there. So stick Watson into an alarm clock and off we go. So that's how we deal with it, and some specific people who we use.
So for us, I would just suggest, since we don't probably have the time to get into all the vendors, I would suggest, so we did a keynote at CES. You find that video, princess.org/ocean, and he also had a few key partners present, technology partners. Our ambition, though, is that each of them are providing ingredients for a special dish that we're cooking that's proprietary to us, because we think it will be a sort of competitive advantage for years to come. And that's why we're very fortunate that we have the scale to make those kind of investments.
Great, thanks.
David, do you want to go next?
Yes, David King, Bay Media. We cover digital home, digital signage, and our excellent articles for different magazines over the years. Laura, you have written and spoken about this in the past, that a new trend in retail, for lack of a better word on my part, labs where, not labs, but in-store cooking classes or in-store events that will become more compelling to the shopper as opposed to just products on shelves. So this whole idea of creating new spaces, Amazon is even making retail stores where they're going to do some cool things. Williams and Sonoma, I believe, doing in-store cooking. So this idea of kind of making the retail space have more experiences, right? So I'm thinking about the presenters today, excellent job. And so you guys are kind of, and maybe this is a new word, or maybe you guys have used it all the time, destination retail? That's what comes to my mind, your destination retail. So my question is, what have you guys learned? And Laura, from your experience in dealing with these new concept sort of in-store experiential things, what is the industry learning about actually doing like events or something more than just products or serving drinks or et cetera, to really, not just bring technology into the store, really kind of to change the retail experience?
The whole role of the retail store, the role of the physical place. Go ahead.
I would say that's completely the consumer trend, right? As people are less and less interested in purchasing things and more interested in consuming experiences. And so we see great interest in activities that are an intersection of, even in our world, different dimensions of our shipboard experience, right? So in our theaters, we have The Voice, where guests try out to sing in the competition. You can vote. And it's that interactive experience that makes that space more powerful, standing room only or whatever. In our boutiques, we do exclusive shopping events, right, where we may have experts that are going to give a presentation on Tahitian pearls, right, so that you get an educational experience at the same time that you're there looking at jewelry. So we as a retailer are more experimentation, and often within a company it takes integration across departments that they have to work together with, because the guest doesn't care that you're different departments. The guest wants an experience that's highly engaging, and we have to make sure we're organized against that need.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's based around the experience. It's all about the guest experience, and if we can serve them the experience they're looking for, we can get them to engage and hopefully spend a couple bucks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about experience. And then the retail, the nice thing about Vegas with with our retailers is that they're anywhere. You've got Gucci, Tiffany's, Tom Ford. So there's a lot of big name retailers there. So I know a lot of people will just come in there just for the experience to walk through one of those stores and look at all the merchandise that they have. It's just about the experience. What relevant experience can you serve up to them?
Great, we got a question over here.
My name is Nobuki from Japan. It may be a fundamental question, but why do you need to make the original device? I'd like to know the merit and value, especially compared with the making in application with the existing device.
Create the new medallion. Why couldn't you program it into
Yes,
their
medallion hardware.
Right. So the beautiful thing is that the medallion is actually quite a simple device, right? So instead of using like the mobile phone, right? We thought there's some guests who want to carry around a phone all day on vacation. So the medallion is as small as a coin. You can slip it in your pocket and to completely forget about it. And it also allowed us complete control because we designed the medallion and we designed the sensors. And so where you don't have that if you're working against everybody's devices are from different manufacturers and they have different versions of software and the like. So it allowed a quality of experience and consistency of experience because we've designed the entire ecosystem.
Question over here.
Hi, this is Amin from Data Performers. We work in artificial intelligence. Actually, I have a quick comment and a question. So, Jan, I love the idea about you talking about learning algorithms and how they learn from the behavior of users. Here, the point I think we will be able, because there is artificial intelligence involved in these learning algorithms, we will be able to make mass customization. So it's going to be cheaper, and everyone would have the possibility to get a service based on something really good. Thomas, you talked earlier, and this is also a case that we are witnessing now in our activity. We approach companies to make experiments with them for our algorithms. How do you manage to keep these experiments low before you get the fundings to realize these projects?
So how do we keep the experiments? I didn't hear that. How do we keep the experiments?
Costs.
Low cost.
Oh, cost low, sorry.
Yeah.
I have a small budget that we can use also too with our partners. I beg and plead to let them give me some things for free. Because, we sell it on the idea too is, hey, if I can get this to work, I can scale it to this. And that's where the money's at, right? So we try to find very flexible partners that are willing to work with us, partners that are willing to eat some of the cost. Because they want to prove out their product too, and if they can get their product to work with us in that scale, it helps them. It helps them in the long run too, right? So that's how we try to keep a lot of the costs down, is finding partners that are willing to work with us, and also getting whatever those devices are, trying to find ones that are regularly available. So if it's a piece of hardware, trying something that's regularly available and it's not too expensive to invest in. But it's usually trying to find partners that are willing to experiment with you, put in the time with you, and also eat some of those costs, because the reward can be quite big if we get it done, and if we get it done right. So.
And would you keep the IP?
Maybe not the IP as far as you'd think required. Maybe that one, but maybe. I don't know. Sure. I've been in guess we called take it into out work But us as a customer, or us as a company, are on the patent, so all other casinos to use technology. So, yeah, it depends on the situation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
One more question? I've got time for one more.
Thanks. My name is Hugh, and I run Kimberly-Clark. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about not just the experience at your specific location and time, like you're, because you guys are obviously over-investing in that area versus us, but we also think about the journey. So I'm curious about like the work that you're doing here with technology and IoT. Are you connecting that to your guests, consumer, shopper journey, however you describe that, and a little bit more about how you're doing that and what you're finding is of value? Because one of the things I would posit is that the kind of investment you're doing creates a lot of rich information. So I'm curious about how else you're leveraging that information.
Mm-hmm. So it's a great point. I should have said, I think one of the foundational efforts of the work was mapping the guest journey, right? Understanding what is the entire experience from the moment it becomes sort of a subconscious thought all the way through the experience and disembarking the ship and remembering the memories that you had, right? And talking about what parts of that journey create the most friction, right? And how do we radically improve those spots? And then having thought through the platform, how do we demonstrate the power of the entire platform? So we are still, while I mentioned one of our ships is already equipped, this all goes live in November of this year on a ship called Regal Princess that sails in the Caribbean. And she'll be shortly followed by 2 more ships in January, and then in March, Royal Princess and Caribbean Princess. And once it's up and running, then we'll have much more real data on, okay, through the customer journey, we were looking for improvements in these KPIs, right? Things like speed of embarkation, right? Speed to deliver drink, you name it, thousands. We'll be able to see kind of before and after. Has the experience been enhanced in the way that we intended it to?
Yeah, we do the same thing with the whole customer journey. You have, we break it down into pre-trip, trip, and post-trip, right? So pre-trip is them looking, trip is obviously them in town doing whatever they're doing, and then post-trip is making sure their experience was what it was was intended, and then keep them engaged throughout that entire cycle. And the way we keep them engaged is especially post-trip, we've got an app called My Vegas. You can play, it's a freemium. So you can obviously play slot machines and win rewards for dinner, show tickets, a room. So that way we keep them engaged after they leave. And as they play those little mini slot machine games or games, what are it keep them in the back of their head as they play. It's like, hey, it's been a while since I've been to Vegas. Why don't I just go back to Vegas again? Then hopefully it's tied into their loyalty account, so when they do go to our websites, that information's being fed there, so it can serve up relevant information to them to get them book again, and then when they shut down, figure out what's missing out of their itinerary. Maybe they didn't go to a show and know they've seen show in the past, express some interest in a show within the app. We can serve up a show offer or whatever. Maybe even offer just to educate them that show I hope you're staying at. So that's how we try to tie it all together.
Okay, Laura, Thomas, Jan, thank you guys very much. That was terrific.
Thank you.
If you have any questions for the panel, you can maybe come forward here. We have another 30-minute coffee break before last session of the day on live video streaming. We'll see you back here in 30 minutes. Thank you.
targets